Art is also about representing suffering, or representing truth, representing reality, making an argument, convincing someone to do something through art. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what makes it so interesting and accessible, is that art was made to move people, right? Usually, not always, but much of it was made to be seen and to elicit response, right? So, I mean, I try to teach them that their response is not necessarily the response of a 14th century viewer, right? Yeah, so I do try to make sure that we talk about like both their responses, but also that they understand that their response is not necessarily the accurate response, right? The truth, and that we're conditioned. I mean, the example actually that just happened in the last week again, but that happens pretty regularly when I show the kinds of things I'm interested in, is that most of my students assume that bodhisattvas, like I was showing 14th century Tibetan paintings, but any bodhisattvas, they often presume that they're female because they're wearing beautiful scarves and they have long hair, but they're male. And that's, it's so obvious to me that they're male just because I've worked on it for so long, but my students who've never seen this material, of course, they read it as female bodies. So I make sure that we talk about that, right? Like, why is it that we see female bodies there when that's definitely not what was intended? This was a visual language for what this type of figure looked like, and that would have been understood in its viewership then. So it says a lot about us that we read long hair and any form of physical beauty as feminine, right? And that's important to point out to them. But then that's not the only thing. Like, it's not about the content of what 14th century people believed. It's about then trying to get them to see how art actually was talking about what should people do, what should governments do, and what do ethical good behaviors look like. And they're making arguments, and they're picturing it. They're literally putting it into images for people who can't read to understand. So it's a perfect access point for students now to look at it and understand and decipher and learn to read images, to better think through, like, oh wow, so there's a huge social change going on. There's a big conversation here about like what an ethical government looks like, and what an ethical person looks like, and what true good religious practice looks like, and what food and trade should look like. It's there, it's painted there, and there's real arguments there. Like, they're actually making arguments. And then you can also, I mean, art is so rich in that you can find, I get really excited because you can find so many more people, right? We so often have been told, and it's often true, that the texts have largely been written by men, and usually the men at the top. So a small percentage of theorists have been the people making the stories about history. When you really get into the art, even though many elite artists in many patriarchal cultures were also male, but you also get this window into people.